Omega, Episode 2, Onyx. They stood in the derelict tunnel, exhausted and bruised, making eye contact with their savior. Her hair was a silver white. Her face was fine, with the focused look in her eyes. She could only be a year older than them. Thanks for the help. Who are you? Abraham asked. With a nod, she answered, My name is Sophia, and I'm in search of the Omega. And why are you looking for him? He asked. I had a vision that I'd meet him here. I'm a seeker, you see. Well, a seeker in training, Oscar interrupted. You see, Abraham, a seeker can get a small glimpse of the future. Sophia looked at him annoyed. Thanks, Oscar. Also, where's Onyx? He never leaves your side. We're actually going to head to meet him now, he said, smiling. And who are you? She asked Abraham. I'm Abraham. Oscar interrupted him. It's the Omega! She immediately fell to one knee. As a seeker, we are entrusted to defend you and humanity. Wait, you don't have to do that, Abraham said, pulling her up. But you're the Omega. Look, at least let me help you, she urged. Abraham looked towards Oscar, who shrugged his shoulders, looking back at her. Well, more the merrier, I guess. Exchanging a few more words, they continued toward the satellite array, now with a new ally. Abraham thought to himself, if Sophia can see parts of the future, can she see into the past? What about her lightning? She was moving so fast, I wonder if I'll be able to learn that. As they got closer to the satellite array, a track of footprints were noticed. Oscar was excited, thinking that Onyx had made it. Until more and more were appearing, following behind the one set as if they were ready to pounce. They led directly into a concrete building, a satellite dish on top, broken and abandoned. The smell of smoke came faintly from inside. Oscar rushed with the others, not far behind. Inside, it was as if a tornado had ripped up the place. Large stones were pulled from the ground, once blinking machinery now smashed and smoking. Drops of blood stained the floor, and a blue metal was stuck in the wall. He was attacked, Oscar worried. Onyx, are you here? It's me. But there was no response. Just faint wind. He sat huddled on the ground. They got to him before I could make it. You could tell Oscar's spirit had started to smolder. He's not here, Sophia whispered. Really? You don't say! Oscar cursed. She then touched the blood, and suddenly her eyes glazed over. Is she okay? Abraham asked. Oscar realizing what she was doing. Yeah, she'll be fine. Sophia's done this plenty of times back in our classes. Instead of finding her books, though, I don't think she's going to see his Onyx die. But he's not dead. Instead, he was taken, she said softly, pointing at the large metal lodged into the wall. Grab that if you don't mind. Abraham, with the help of Oscar, pulled out the tool. Unlike everyone else's metal, it was heavy and it started to ball on one side like a hammer. Good. Now everyone put your hand on it, Sophia commanded. I need to tap into your weaves. Can you not do it alone? Abraham asked. No, not for how long we'll be seeing this memory. It will require more energy than I have, she pronounced. Both Abraham and Sophia placed their hands on the cold metal, with Oscar hesitantly following up, afraid of what he could see. Everything went white, no sense of time or feeling, as if they were riding on a string backwards that pushed against them. Abruptly, though, everything faded to black. Feelings slowly started to come back, but not of their own. His muscles were as strong as steel. The skin was cracked and broken, like rock on every inch of his body, showing off the red flesh below, from a sacrifice long, long ago. His mind was focused on Oscar, his greatest friend, hoping that they would soon see each other at this abandoned satellite array. He sat, watching the sun rise from a small window, his weapon laid next to him, while the sound of wind whipping a rusted door created an aggravated rhythm, until a new pattern showed itself. First it was quiet but determined, then it got louder and heavier, as if more voices had joined its chorus. He turned around, thinking to himself, could it be Oscar? Instead, it was the one person he never wanted to see. There stood a boy in red robes, his face obscured by a hood. Behind him were a group of followers. "So, Onyx, where's Oscar?" the one in red demanded, his voice like fire. "None of your business, Ishin," Onyx said, brandishing his weapon. "Really? You want to fight?" "Well, if that's what you want." Ishin pulled out 2 shards of metal, igniting them in crimson fire. "Step back, my friends. I only want to hurt the bodyguard of a murderer." Chunks of concrete around Onyx started to float. Using his weapon like a bat, launching the rocks with inhuman speed, Ishin sliced and slithered throughout the barrage, meeting metal to metal, locking eyes with each other. Pulling away, Ishin came at him like a tornado of flames, boxing Onyx in, though he stomped his foot down, sending a tremor of rocks holding down Ishin's feet. He charged him, slamming his heavy metal into his chest, the force of which threw Ishin into the blinking machinery. Onyx raised his metal, ready to end him. Although Ishin dodged the crush, sparks exploding from the machinery. One last time, their metal clashed, locking like teeth. Onyx's breath was fast, his energy almost depleted. Ishin finally saw his chance. His shards of metal grew hotter and hotter, until they were blinding white. With a twist of Ishin's hand, a blast of fire sent Onyx and his weapon flying, leaving him weak on the floor. "That's always been your weakness, Onyx. Too much effort in every strike," Ishin said, catching his breath. "Now take him with us. I have a feeling Oscar won't be far behind. We're going to the extraction point." With the memory faded, leaving the 3 of them to contemplate, Oscar's spirit was ignited once more. "I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to go take down a bastard." Something, though, was on Abraham's mind. The bodyguard of a murderer? Is Ishin referring to Oscar? He thought to himself, keeping it from exiting his mouth. Abraham noticed, though, Sophia was sweating, sitting in a corner. "Are you okay?" he asked. She looked at him weakly. "Like I said, it takes a lot of energy to peer into the past." Sophia tried to stand up, falling every time. Just sit down and rest," Abraham said, although Oscar butting in. "We can't rest. We need to keep moving. If they attacked him this morning, we're not far behind." "No, we can't. If we're going to rescue your friend, Oscar, we'll need all our strength," Abraham insisted. "Then I'll have to go alone," Oscar said. "It's going to take all of us to get your friend back. You know that," Abraham asserted. Oscar knew he couldn't fight Ishin alone. He's tried too many times already. "Fine, but we're leaving immediately in the morning." Time passed in the concrete building, and a fire held back the darkness, the 3 of them snug in their sleeping bags. Oscar held Onyx's metal, only imagining what his friend is going through. Sophia meditated, her breathing calm and precise. Abraham held his tool, the blue metal, still as unwieldy as before. He examined everyone else's weapon. Oscar's weapon was starting to curve, creating a crescent shape. Sophia's was becoming longer with a finer point, perfect for thrusting at your enemy. Doubt once again crossed Abraham's mind. Was it just taking longer since he's the Omega? Or is it something else? Either way, his eyes were slowly closing, leaving him to his dreams, the others following not long after. All was not silent, though, on this frozen planet. Upon a mountain range not so far away were a group of survivors setting up camp. Their leader, the one in red, sat upon a rock, overlooking his followers, and a short boy by his side, nose red from the cold. "So, what are you going to do when we get off this icy planet?" Ishin asked. "Well, do whatever Weaver does. Get assigned by the ESF and join a squad of our people. Well, every Weaver except you, my friends," the small boy answered. "But is that what you truly want?" Ishin prodded at him. "Well, it's not like we have much of a choice anyway." "Don't worry, Jack. I might be able to throw a good word in with a few members in the Phoenix and ESF. I'm going to need an assistant when I become king," he assured. A smile slowly formed on Jack's face. But there was something else he was thinking, Ishin noticing the question. "What else is on your mind?" "Well, you know how you took out, the puppet Omega. What if he isn't dead?" "I doubt that he survived my ambush. But if he did, and has mastered multiple weaves, we're in for an unwelcome fight. If he's the vengeful type, that is. Now, let's go help set up camp." Night passed, with it a new sun warming the tundra, where a team of 3 slept. "Wake up! We have to get moving!" Oscar shouted, hoisting the bag onto his back. "How early is it?" Abraham groggily asked. "Well, it's been about 30 minutes since the sun has risen. Luckily, I was going to wake you when I immediately saw it, but decided to give you a little bit of time." It didn't take long for them to collect their things and make it out of the satellite array. In their travels, they stumbled across many different markers, but one of them caught Abraham's interest. A large stone tablet carved into the side of a mountain. The faded words were from an alien language, unreadable by a commoner. Its design was composed of floral designs. The stone itself was luminescent under the shadow of the mountain. He was drawn to it, as if the stone had a song to it. Abraham wondered why and who made this. Maybe it's the grave of someone important. What if it was just some funny story? Or a warning? "We call them Phalorum markers," Sophia interrupted Abraham's thoughts. "The Phalorum?" he asked. "A race long before us. Their structures are on actually many of our planets, molded into the rock and soil of each. There's only a few hundred people in the galaxy that can read their language," she inquired. "That's interesting and all, but we need to get moving," Oscar shouted across a frozen field. Continuing along their way, Oscar always a few feet in front of them, Sophia asked Abraham a question. "So if I may, Omega, how many weaves have you mastered?" "Well, I've only mastered water as of right now." She looked at him confused. "Most Omegas at least have a grasp of 3 of them at your age." "Is that bad?" he questioned. "Where did you train?" "I didn't really train anywhere, but I did live on the planet Rose." "A human planet. Interesting. And what did you do there, Omega?" "Why are you so curious? And you know you could just call me Abraham, right?" "I'm sorry, Omega. I mean Abraham," she said. But before they could continue, Oscar pulled their attention to a freezing rapid river, stopping them in their tracks. Sophia suggested that Abraham could create a bridge of ice to cross the violent river. Oscar, meanwhile, looked for another way to cross. Abraham, unconfident that he could create a bridge, with time and patience, Abraham did create a bridge, though it was flimsy, and was unable to even hold a mouse. With no other way to pass, they sat stumped, until Abraham remembered something. While he could summon ice at will with his metal, it was easier to save Oscar from falling to death when there was ice next to him. He told them of his plan to gather copious amounts of snow around them, to put into a singular pile, and hopefully summon a pillar of ice to cross. "Abraham, you realize we are standing upon feet of snow and ice?" Oscar exasperated. "I know, but I feel good about this," Abraham reassured Oscar, who was shaking his head. Together, they built a large mound of snow, as tall as Sophia. Oscar waiting for him to use his weave, Abraham, his metal to his side, moved like a wave, back and forth. The metal hummed. Snow and ice responded by ebbing and flowing, a sound of his own accompanying it. A serene cascade of ice covering the raging river, calming the beast below. Abraham opened his eyes to see the work in front of him. "Well, good job. Now let's hurry," Oscar said. Together they moved into a field of old machines of war. Some had the symbol of a phoenix proudly displayed. Another had a shield lightning atop it, the symbol of stormmancers, meant to represent how they defend humanity from anything that would slight them. A mountain stood in front of them. Still they continued on, defiantly climbing the deadly peak. Sophia would have surely fallen to her death, if not for Abraham catching her with his ice. The 3 of them reached the top, taking a second to catch their breath. Oscar knew he was right behind Onyx, as just over a few rocks he found a scene of leftover ration containers, and a once roaring fire now smoldering. "We're only a few hours behind, and with how many people they have in their group, they're going to move pretty slow," Oscar shouted over the rocks. "Sophia, do you mind checking if it doesn't hurt you, that is?" Abraham said, handing her an empty ration container. "Don't worry. I'll be fine," she responded. "Look, I know we're on the right track," Oscar protested. "I'm just making sure. What if it's a different group, and we started following them? It'll be hard to find Onyx again," he reasoned. "Fine. I guess you're right. Well, let's hurry," Oscar said, placing his hand onto the ration. Again, they were brought into the past. A sensation of cold chains around their arms greeted them in a tent, the sun peeking through the fabric. Then realization struck again, that it was Onyx, alone, bruised, and chained. He was tired. His stomach groaned for sustenance as his cracked skin started to burn like acid, causing him to groan in pain. Onyx couldn't even gain enough energy to break the rusty chains, an easy feat for him at his full strength. Ishin walked into the tent, his head finally visible, black hair down to his shoulders, contrasting with the fire red of his eyes, a ration in his hands. "Hungry, Onyx?" But there was no response from him. "Really? It's been almost an entire day since you ate. That can't be good for you. And if I'm not mistaken, your weave sickness will act up easier when you don't have the calories to burn. Not to mention your entire body's covered in it. That's none of your concern. And you're not going to get anything out of me about Oscar. You might as well kill me now," Onyx said. "Look, I'm only here to make sure you don't starve," Ishin said, standing over him. Another torrent of pain shot through Onyx's body, his cracked skin making him scream in pain. "Just give me the ration," Onyx said, his body convulsed. Handing him the ration, Onyx's hands barely reached his mouth. Ishin, though, left without a word. As soon as the vision came, it went, leaving our three once again in the present. Abraham had a few questions to ask Oscar. "Why does Ishin hate you? And what's wrong with Onyx?" Oscar sighed. "Oh boy, where do I start? Let's just say a long time ago, Onyx used his weave without a catalyst, like the material our weapons are made out of. And since the weave is so powerful, it can quite literally rip apart your entire body. He was lucky, though, it didn't happen to him. Although his skin is now cracked like a rock, with wounds that will never heal. But we should continue. I have a feeling we aren't far behind. And if you want, I'll tell you the story of Ishin on our way." Oscar hurried. Once again, our party of three continued through the glacial land, following the tracks of Ishin and company. Excitement and fear were going through Oscar's head. He had to do something to keep himself calm. "So, you wanted to know why Ishin hates my guts, right?" Oscar asked Abraham. "Yeah, I did." "Well, you see, Ishin is the up-and-coming Emperor of the Phoenix, after his father and mother were murdered. I remember that night as if it were yesterday. I had just finally gotten to sit at the Crimson Court as my father's assistant. See, the Crimson Court is where the Emperor and a few governors across the Phoenix Empire make decisions, a place of great history. But that's not what this story's about. On this day, many things were said and done. A decision was also made that would allow the ESF full control of our supply lines. Let's just say, the outcome wasn't to the liking of the ESF overlords. But even then, everyone played nice until the after-party. Almost everyone who was anybody was there. My father, though, gave me a letter to give to the Emperor himself, who had retired to his private quarters at the time. As I went to give it to him, something was off, though. There were no guards anywhere in sight, and entering the Emperor's room, the lights were out, and there was a slender figure of someone standing over the bodies of the Emperor and the Empress. So, I did what any idiot kid would do. I pulled out my own weapon and charged. I mean, who would dare attack our leader? I was lucky, though, not to be eviscerated by the assassin, as I was saved by the sound of shouting. As it was getting closer, and before I knew it, the assassin was gone, leaving me alone, my blade out, and the bodies of the Emperor and the Empress at my feet. Ishin and a league of guards saw me, and, well, attacked me. I escaped through a window, falling fairly far, but surviving. After that, though, I changed my name and identity, hoping it would throw him off my trail. Oscar ended his story with his head held low. I'm sorry, Abraham said. It's fine. It's all in the past anyway. I just have to keep moving forward. And would you look what's in front of us? Oscar pointed down at a hill where a camp of 12 had just started to set up their tents, and chained to a pole was a stark-skinned, muscle-bound person. "Before we get your friend, Oscar, we're going to need a plan," Abraham rallied. I would just like to say thank you for, well, listening again. And if you like it or have any complaints, let me know.